Hey there, and welcome back to Discover What You're Born to Do. I am so glad you're here. This is an exciting week because we're putting together all of the work you've done in the last 3 weeks. At this point, you have a lot of information, and now we're going to put that information to work for you. This week, we're going to talk about your core strengths, the intersection where the trends and patterns in your strengths overlap. Looking at your strengths in this way will reveal the areas where you have the greatest opportunity for success, fulfillment, and advancement in your career. To start, let's take a look at our roadmap, review what we've done so far, and see where we're going. Remember, to find work that matters to you, you need to know 3 things. The first is who you are. The second is how to make decisions that are aligned with who you are. And the third is what you want. Here's where we are on the roadmap. In our first week, we covered your affective strengths, your preferences and values. In week 2, we talked about your innate strengths, your instinctive drive to take action. Last week, we talked about your learned strengths or knowledge and skills you've acquired so far. This week, we'll take a look at your core strengths, the patterns and trends that reveal where these 3 areas of who you are overlap to create your ultimate career strengths. I've heard this overlap called a lot of things. Your sweet spot, your zone of genius. What you call it isn't important, but your ability to clearly identify, articulate, and make decisions based on your strengths is important to me. And if you're someone who's had a multitude of careers and jobs, or you've started and stopped your career 100 times, or you feel like you have shiny object syndrome, I want you to know that this variety in your job history is a gift. And this week, I'll show you how your rich and diverse background is a strength. I know society may have shamed you for not knowing what you wanted early on in life or not picking something and sticking to it no matter what, but that's only one perspective. Having a varied history of experience is invaluable in the workplace and in business. It also gives you a diversity of skills and greater empathy and insight into different disciplines and ways of thinking. And we need diversity in our workplace and in our world right now more than ever. As usual, I want to check in with your survival brain, that part of your mind that's working to keep you safe from threats, but sometimes also creates resistance from things that are new. I want to know, are you noticing any signs of overwhelm, confusion, or wanting to quit? Overwhelm is a sign that there's too much change going on at once. And just like building muscles, it's okay to feel the sensations of growth, but not to the point of pain or injury. So before we step into the breathing exercise, I want you to check in with yourself for a minute about your level of change. Are you on the edge of growth or are you past that point? Now, let's help your body and your mind prepare for the lesson ahead. I've studied breathing, mindfulness, and meditation practices formally since 1996, and I've found every discipline to be beneficial. The reason I teach this very simple breathing technique is because you can do it anywhere and without anyone knowing. I find it's the most practical tool I can use when I need to get calm on command. Consciously slowing down the breath isn't magic. It's simply you sending a signal to your physical body that it's safe to move your nervous system from an alert, fight-flight state into a calmer, parasympathetic state. So let's begin. Wherever you are, bring your awareness into your body. Take a couple of slow, deep breaths. Now gently even out your inhale and your exhale. Nothing extreme, it should feel natural to your body. If you lose track of the breath pattern, that's okay. Just gently come back to the task at hand and return to evening out the inhale and the exhale. Now elongate your exhale. Again, nothing extreme, just a little bit longer than your inhale. An elongated exhale is the opposite of how we breathe when we're in fight, flight, or when we're under attack. We're sending a physical message to our body that we are safe and that it's okay to relax. I'm going to hold you here for one more minute to practice, but listen to your body and only stick with this pattern as long as it's comfortable for you. You'll hear some music in the background so you know I'm here, and at the end of 1 minute, I'll let you know. Great. You can let go of the breathing pattern and come back into a regular breath. Now that you're in a relaxed and more creative state, I want you to imagine an ideal workday. Not a holiday or a vacation, just a regular workday. I want you to imagine that it's several years in the future, and you've been in a fulfilling career for 5 or 6 years now. As you wake up and open your eyes for the day, notice how you feel emotionally. What about physically? As you eat breakfast, what thoughts are running through your mind? I want you to think about how much time having a career you enjoy has saved you in the last few years. As you head into work, I want you to notice that you don't spend a lot of time or energy hating what you're doing anymore. You don't waste hours analyzing better options, searching the job forums, perfecting your resume, or complaining to your colleagues over lunch. I want you to notice that you're more productive, more engaged, and more fulfilled in the work you do day to day. As you head back home from your workday, notice how you feel emotionally and physically. What do you have time and space for now that your thoughts and conversations aren't dominated by finding a job you like? And as you crawl back into bed, I want you to feel appreciation for the changes you've made in your career and how much time you've been able to get back in your life. Time you're able to spend on things you care about and with the people you love. Great. As you come back into the present day, notice if anything is starting to shift during these exercises for you. If not, that's totally fine. Remember, the point of consciously imagining and deliberately daydreaming about the work life we want is to train our brains to focus on what we do want instead of defaulting to what we don't. So let's dive into the material today. Each of the exercises you've done so far has revealed an area of affective, innate, or learned strength for you. Let's review. Your affective strengths are found in your preferences, values, desires, beliefs, character, wants, motivations, and your attitudes. This is the feeling part of your mind. Your innate strengths are found in your instinctive drive to take action, your natural talents, your natural energy, your gifts, and what you feel compelled to do or strive for. This is your inborn or doing part of your mind. Your learned strengths are found in your formal and informal education, your learned behaviors, habits, learned culture, acquired knowledge, training, and skills. This is your thinking part of the mind. Many of us have a preconceived notion about what a strength looks like. You might value one type of strength or another, such as valuing a skill that took a long time and a lot of hard work to learn, but dismiss a strength that comes naturally to you. If this rings true for you, I invite you to broaden your viewpoint on what strengths look like, especially in regard to your preferences. For example, you may not realize that the fact you're drawn to nature is a strength for you, but it is. You may not have considered your preference for solitude as a strength, but it most certainly is. The reason I focus almost exclusively on strengths in this course is because you can't effectively build a fulfilling career based on your weaknesses. You need to build your career on your strengths. Think about building a house or a bridge. You can't build it on rotting wood or shifting soil and expect it to stand up for very long. It simply won't last. And your career is the same. You need to base your career on the strongest parts of you. The next step on our journey is to find out where your strengths overlap. These areas of overlap are the most solid foundation to build your career on. A good metaphor for this type of layered strength is from the building industry. It's a construction material called a glue laminated timber. You've probably seen these beams in buildings and structures, even if you didn't really pay attention to them. Glue lams are layers of lumber bonded together vertically to create a very strong structural beam that can hold large loads. Pound for pound, a glue lam is stronger than steel and has greater strength and stiffness than comparably sized dimensional lumber. They're also highly versatile and used in many types of construction, from everyday houses to bridges and cathedrals. The strengths you possess that show up over and over are like these glue lambs. They are both strong and versatile. So, how do you find these layered strengths? First, we're going to look for repetitions or themes within a category of strength. For example, look for patterns within your affective strengths or your preferences. These are the exercises from week 1. Say you notice you like to hike, fish, and kayak. That would be a pattern of nature showing up over and over. Then look for patterns within your cognitive strengths or your learned skills. These are the exercises from week 3. Maybe you've taken a language class since you were a child, you've studied abroad, and your family speaks multiple languages. This would be a theme of learning languages. Then we look for where you have a pattern overlap in more than one part of your mind. For example, maybe you loved playing with science kits as a kid and you took a lot of chemistry classes in school. That's a pattern of science in the affective and cognitive parts of your mind. Maybe you really like doing DIY building projects around the house and your Colby result is a 7 through 10 implementer. That's a pattern of construction or building in the affective and innate parts of your mind. Or perhaps your Colby is a 7 through 10 quick start and you've had a lot of sales training. That's a pattern of influence in sales in the cognitive and innate parts of your mind. Once we've looked for the patterns within each strength or across a couple of strengths, we look at where these strengths overlap or stack up in all 3 areas. What we're looking for is where you have a natural talent, a desire or preference, and training. It's what some call your sweet spot or your zone of genius. Personally, I think those titles are limiting and can be confining. The truth is, you likely have several sweet spots or zones of genius, not just one. Anywhere you have this triple overlap, you have an area where you have the potential to achieve mastery in that field. Here's the formula: natural talent plus desire or preference plus practice equals mastery. And not only do overlaps of these areas reveal where you have the greatest opportunity for mastery and fulfillment in your career, but they also reveal many more professional possibilities and avenues where you can be successful than just looking in a single industry. When you only focus on a single job or industry the way the traditional career philosophies advise, you limit your options because you'll most likely only look for jobs in that one industry. You'll miss great opportunities that not only use your education, but also fulfill your larger desires and capitalize on your natural talents. When we look at your strengths comprehensively, it opens up more opportunities and options for where you can find fulfilling work. This is especially important in our current economy. Demands shift rapidly these days, and you need to be able to adapt to a changing market. This will also help you navigate career changes as your life and interests change. So you might be wondering about strengths that show up multiple times, but don't show up in all 3 parts of your mind, and that's a good question. All of your strengths are valid, and they're useful in your career at one point or another. The reason we look at your strengths in all 3 areas is to identify where your best opportunities are, not to limit or negate the importance of your other strengths. As much as possible, you want to center your career around the areas that come naturally to you, that you find fulfilling, and that you're trained for because that's where you'll have the most energy. However, other strengths are also important. They can fill gaps in your natural talent, your desire, or your training. They can also be useful for one-off tasks or things that you only need to do for a short amount of time. The key is to take a look at how often a theme or a pattern shows up for you. This can tell you the proportionate amount of time you want to be spending doing those tasks. Remember back to my example of being organized? I still use that learned skill of organization in my business, but I try to only use it about 10% of the time. The bulk of my work is centered around my core, innate strengths. Let's take a look at some examples of how being self-aware about your different areas of strength can help you navigate or troubleshoot your career decisions. Let's say you're thinking of becoming a lawyer because you think they make a lot of money, but you don't have faith in our justice system, or you hate reading legal documents, or you don't like being indoors or wearing a suit, and the thought of arguing your point all day makes you run for the hills. You need to think twice because money cannot compensate for a lack of natural desire. Let's say you want to be a professional musician and you see that you have a natural strength like playing a musical instrument and music is fulfilling for you, but you aren't trained in music or the music industry. This might be an area where you want to consider getting some additional education or mentorship. In this case, education can take your raw talent and desire and turn it into genius level work. On the other hand, if you have a natural talent for music, but you don't like the work, even if you're highly trained in it, it will be challenging to achieve a high level of excellence and fulfillment. You need that internal desire to keep you going when things get hard. Similarly, if you love music and you have training, but you don't have a natural talent for it, you're also more likely to hit a ceiling somewhere, feel frustrated, and dissatisfied with your career overall. And I'm not saying it can't be done. You should try for any dream you have. Living with regrets is not worth it. But if you start to struggle, take a look at your strengths. If you still have a deep desire for a profession, your strengths can help you see where you can tweak your approach or your direction without leaving the industry altogether. In the exercises for this week, you'll take the list you've compiled so far in this course and look for patterns and trends within each area of strength. Then you'll look for the overlap across all 3 areas of strength. As usual, I have worksheets available as a guide, but this week I really want you to use your preferred method of working with this information. The point of these exercises isn't just to check off a homework assignment, but to really understand your strengths in a way that you can articulate and act on. So use whatever way is going to support your understanding best. I've seen people put information in tables, Venn diagrams, storyboards, spreadsheets, and many other formats. I really want you to use whatever method works best for your brain. The only thing I'll say is don't just do these exercises in your head. You need to capture your insights somewhere so you have them for future reference in the course. So let's walk through the exercises. In the first exercise, we'll look at the patterns in the affective part of your mind, those preferences and desires you wrote down in week 1. You can also include other assessments or information about your personality that you might have done in the past. To do this, gather the following exercises from week 1. Exercise 1, what do you like? Exercise 4, how do you want to feel? And exercise 7, what do you get excited about? Take a look at the trends, patterns, or themes that show up in one or more of these exercises. Even if something just appears twice, that's worth noting. Once you're done identifying the patterns and trends, go back and make a mark by the most prominent patterns or themes that you see. In the second exercise, take a look at the patterns and trends in the cognitive part of your mind, your instinctive talents, and your drive to take action from week 2. To do this, gather the following exercises from week 2. Exercise number 1, what are your cognitive strengths? And exercise number 5, how do you perform best? Notice what the trends, patterns, or themes are that show up in one or more of these exercises. Again, even if something only appears twice, that's worth taking note of. Once you're done identifying the patterns and trends, go back and make a mark by the most prominent patterns or themes. In the third exercise, we'll take a look at the patterns in the cognitive part of your mind, your learned skills and abilities from week 3. To do this, gather the following exercises from week 3. Exercise number 1, informal skills and abilities. 2, formal skills and abilities. And if you did it, the bonus exercise dark into light from week 3. Take a look at the trends, patterns, and themes that show up in one or more of these exercises. Again, even if something only appears twice, it's worth noting. Once you're done identifying the patterns and trends, go back and make a mark by the most prominent patterns or themes. For the fourth exercise, you'll look at the 3 exercises above and start looking for patterns, themes, or trends across all 3 parts of your strengths. To do this, gather the 3 exercises you just did above. Exercise number 1, affective patterns. Exercise 2, cognitive patterns. And exercise 3, cognitive patterns. Notice the trends, patterns, or themes that show up across one or more of these exercises. Again, even if it's just twice, it's worth noting. Once you're done, go back and circle all of the patterns, themes, and trends that show up in all three exercises. This overlap of strengths or stack is where you have the opportunity to do genius level work. These are your core strengths. These are the strengths that you want to center your career around. For the last exercise, write down the strengths that overlapped in all three areas from exercise 4. This way you have it handy throughout the rest of the course. Now, congratulations! You've made it to the end of the first section of the course. By now, I hope you have some more clarity around your personal strengths and how you can use them to form the foundation of your career. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a heads up on the mind traps I commonly see in this section. Remember, these are just shortcuts that your mind is trying to take. Mind trap number 1 is no one will pay me to do my dream job. At this point, your survival brain may be kicking in and dredging up all kinds of reasons why you should quit the course, quit hoping for some pipe dream, and just be satisfied with where you are. Thoughts like, no one will pay me for this, seem rational, but they may not be accurate. Just because you can't see a way to get paid right now or you don't know how it's going to happen doesn't mean it doesn't exist. If this thought arises or it comes out of your friend's or partner's mouth, ask yourself this question. Do you know every single way there is to make money in the world? Can you guarantee that no one will ever pay you for what you have to offer? It's very likely you don't know every single way there is to make money. You just can't see how it's going to happen right now. Also check in to see if you're just tired, hungry, or you need to take a day off from this work. It may simply be a sign of fatigue. The truth is, many possibilities exist for you to get paid for your core strengths, even if you can't imagine it right now. Mind trap number 2 goes something like, working hard makes me a good person. Many of us were taught that hard work is a moral virtue. And a solid work ethic isn't a bad thing, but it needs to be in balance. If this is a belief you hold, consider what qualities really make you a good person. Consider what is really valuable about your work. Is it your effort or the impact you make? One of the reasons this is important to think about is because when you start doing work that comes more naturally to you, if you hold the belief that only hard work determines your self-worth, you may end up taking a lower salary and not charging enough or not getting paid adequately because the work feels too easy for you. The truth is, you can work to your strengths, work more efficiently, and have a balanced life, and still maintain your moral character. Mind trap number 3 is work isn't supposed to be enjoyable. You just have to suck it up. We touched on this train of thought last week, and I want to revisit it because sometimes it sneaks in right about now. This fallacy makes the argument that work is hard seem like a fact, like gravity, and it's not. If this thought arises from you or others, ask this question. Is this true for everyone on the planet? Can you think of anyone who enjoys their work? Even if one person enjoys their work, then this mind trap is false. Work might not be enjoyable for some people, or you might have to suck it up right now, but it's not a law or a fact of life, and it certainly doesn't have to be true for you in the long term. I learned a great counter for this type of mind trap from Megan Wildhood. She asks, who benefits from me believing this? And I'll challenge you to ask yourself the same. Who benefits from you believing that work isn't supposed to be enjoyable? As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. You are the fabric of your career. Painters paint with paint, sculptors sculpt with clay, and you are the medium of your career. You are what we're going to build your career with. It's not your job to squeeze yourself into the box of what culture and society thinks you should be. It's your job to discover who you are and find work that fits naturally to you. Okay, so let's get you set up for the week with a clear plan of action. Your main focus for this week as you do the exercises is to find the overlap of your strengths. I also recommend that you continue reading the quick morning emails to help you integrate what you're learning. Do the 1-minute breathing exercise every day, and also check in with yourself. Are you surrounding yourself with support? Are the people you're hanging out with and the media you're consuming supporting your growth in your career? As always, you can find all of the research and diagrams I've mentioned today in the transcript that's available for download anywhere you're listening to this. Next week, we'll start the second section of our work together. The section we wrapped up today is all about who you are. In the next section, we'll address the skills and mindsets you need to make good decisions for yourself. This is one of the most crucial skill sets in finding a career that's aligned with who you are and will help you stay true to yourself through the course of your career. I also want to take a moment here to thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your persistence, your focus, and your courage in this course. I know that it takes a leap of faith in yourself to step out of what you know and into uncharted territory. Self-reflection is hard work, and I'm inspired by your continued willingness to stay the course and find a career that matters to you. I'll talk to you next time.